Hello, hello. We are live, and I would love to see who is here. And first, actually, I want to check tech and just see if everything is working. Could somebody type in the chat? Can you hear me? I had some challenges a few sessions ago. I'm watching in the chat to see if everybody can hear me okay. Yes, excellent. Okay. Off to a good start. Let me know where you are and how is the weather where you are. I am in sunny San Diego. It was pouring rain yesterday, and today it is sunny like a summer day. But in a few days, I'm going to be in Cape Cod, where it was snowing a couple days ago. So I'm going to have both ends of the spectrum in 1 week. So where are you in the world, and how is the weather? We're just chatting a little bit to give people a chance to come on board here. Our topic today, I'm going to be talking about how to layer together different aspects of your personal fertility program. You may have noticed we're sort of on our own here in terms of all the things that you can do to optimize your fertility. There are things that are well researched and a lot of things that are not well researched. So if you've been on this path for a while, you've probably been considering all the different things that you might be able to do. And you've probably made friends with Dr. Google, and you've probably found that there are more things you could possibly do than you can make sense of, find time for, afford to do. And it's challenging to know where should you be putting your focus. And because of that challenge, it becomes stressful. You want to be sure that you're doing what is going to make a difference, but there isn't always enough information about what's going to make a difference. So it creates this situation of kind of perpetual stress, wanting to make sure you're doing everything you can, but not able to actually do everything you can, and not even really knowing what for sure is going to make a difference for your situation. So I've given a lot of thought to this as I went through these challenges myself several years ago, and I've been guiding other women through and seeing the challenges that they're experiencing. So I'm going to share with you today kind of the path that I've gone in my own journey, and then guiding other women and how that has informed how I suggest, or an approach that I suggest that you can follow to help keep your stress levels down, because we know that stress, there is enough research to show us that stress really isn't good for your fertility. It's not good for your overall health. Occasional stress is fine. Chronic stress that never lets up is really damaging on so many levels. Okay, so let's see who's here. Kanchan, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Hello. Melanie, hello. Rebecca, hello, Rebecca. Kanchan's in Toronto. It's snowing. I was in Toronto in August. It was beautiful. Melanie, Ohio, freezing cold, snow on the ground. Beverly is in the UK. It's dark and cold. Hannah, I think maybe you're on the East Coast. So I guess I'm the only one here who's got beautiful sunny weather. I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts before I head out to the East Coast myself. Kanchan, okay, thank you. That's how you pronounce your name. Wonderful. Well, welcome. I'm Dr. Natalie Masson. I'm a psychologist specializing in the mind-body connection, and I am the writer and the voice behind the guided imagery and affirmation fertility meditations here on my Fertility from the Soul YouTube channel. It's been such a pleasure to be able to share my creations this way, and then have women all over the world trying them out and giving me feedback, and knowing that maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of a drop of ease and comfort and confidence growing in women as they're having a chance to try out these kind of non-traditional approaches to supporting your fertility. So thank you all for being here. And I'm going to, oh, hello, Christina. Christina is in Ohio. It's brisk, but not snowing. Christinista. Beautiful. Okay, so I've talked, last month I did a couple of live streams where I went into some of the science behind my focus on really trying to address stress in our fertility process. So in one of the live streams, I talked about the research connecting stress and fertility and showing that there have been studies that showed that fertility or time to get pregnant went down when women were experiencing stress around ovulation time. A couple other studies like that. And then in another live stream, I talked about egg quality, which is often responsible for miscarriages. And in a nutshell, egg quality seems to be influenced by mitochondrial functioning in the months before ovulation. If the mitochondria are not giving the eggs enough cellular power to develop correctly, we're more likely to have a poorly developed egg that leads to miscarriage. And so we're looking at ways to help support mitochondria in those months prior to ovulation. And I also looked at studies of connecting stress and mitochondria, and it does look like stress can have a negative impact on mitochondrial functioning. So we're connecting the dots and saying stress, through its impact on mitochondria, could impact a developing egg, which could have impacts on healthy pregnancy or having miscarriages. So these are two pathways, getting pregnant and creating good quality eggs, where stress can have an impact. So that's kind of in a nutshell why you'll see in a lot of my programs, I'm really putting a lot of emphasis on calming the mind and body. Okay. So let's rewind to, I'm going to tell you just a little overview of my story. Many of you are already familiar with it. So I was 41 with my first pregnancy. That happened very easily, thankfully. And then when I was trying to have our second child, I was 45 years old, and it was a very different story. I had many, many months of negative pregnancy tests. And then when I finally did get pregnant, I miscarried. And then I got pregnant again 2 cycles later, and I miscarried again. So across a period of 6 months, I had essentially 2 first trimesters that didn't progress. At that point, I was very depleted, very beaten down, just mentally, emotionally, physically exhausted from putting so much emotional energy, mental energy into this process of trying to figure out what I should be doing. I was getting acupuncture a lot of the times. I kind of toyed a little bit with herbs here and there. And after that period of time, I, was kind of very close to giving up. I was going to be turning 46 soon, and didn't, I couldn't picture going through a lot of more rounds of this. I think if you've been through a miscarriage, I'm not sure how common this is, but I see it a lot on forums. While you're going through it, it kind of feels like the most horrible thing you could ever endure. And you say to yourself, I said to myself, there's no way I could go through this again. No way I want to set myself up to have this kind of loss again. But I guess it's kind of like childbirth. We usually say that during childbirth too. Oh my gosh, I could never do this again. And then lo and behold, a few months or a year later, you're like, that wasn't so bad. So that can happen with miscarriages too. Initially, no way I could do this again. And then for me, within a couple of weeks, I'm like, no, I'm gonna try this again, see what I can do differently. So after those 2 miscarriages, I looked at what I could do differently. And I started coming across this information about how egg quality could be influenced by what is going on in your body in the 3 months before. So I set aside 3 months and thought, well, what's everything that I can do to most nourish my system? And that was really the basic principle of what I was doing. How can I most nourish my system on every level? And, I had had a career for over a decade as a therapist, helping people deal with stress, dealing with the mind-body connection, understanding how emotions kind of take residence in the body if they don't get processed. So I kind of hit it from all levels based on what I felt my body needed. I already ate fairly healthfully. I didn't drink caffeine. I didn't really drink alcohol. So those things were not really an issue for me to focus on. But I knew that emotionally, I'd had a lot of, trauma and grief going on, and there was a lot that I wasn't having a fun time in life during this extended trying to conceive period and going through miscarriages. Energetically, I was just really dampened down. So I really wanted to shift that energy, and just restore my system in every way, physically and emotionally. So sleeping a lot more and getting regular exercise, not missing meals, eating healthy food, and then really working on this emotional part, which I felt was really big for me, not being stressed out chronically, and really connecting with joy in my life, nourishing my relationships, things like that. So everything was centered around how can I just boost my overall energy level, to be in a more easeful, joyful, and restful place. And so I decided that I was going to give it one more try. I think this is a common thing when you've been trying to conceive for a long time too, like one more cycle, one more cycle. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't conceive that cycle, if I would have just made one more cycle and one more cycle for another year. But I didn't need to, because that cycle that I was going to turn 46 years old, I got my positive pregnancy test, and my second daughter is about to turn 4 years old. So that was the trajectory of my fertility story. And from there, I really wanted to be able to pass on the approach that I had used in case it might be helpful to others. So at that point, I had been very active in an online fertility forum on Baby Center. And I just put the invitation out. I said, I'm looking for 10 volunteers who have not had a successful pregnancy since they've been trying, and would like to try out following my guidance for a 3-month egg nurturing period. And a lot of the women had gotten to know me over the months that I had been going through things, and it wasn't that hard to find 10 volunteers for this. These were all women who were over 40, hadn't been pregnant in 6 months to a year, or had been having miscarriages. And they agreed that they would try this, 3 months of not trying to get pregnant and improving egg quality through healthy lifestyle change. So the next thing that happened is going to blow your mind. I'm being kitschy and quoting like these clickbaity headlines that you see all the time, but truly it really caught me off guard, because I was starting to send out emails about, okay, this is the plan, this is how we're going to do things. And within the first week or two, probably in the first 2 weeks, I got an email from somebody, one of the 10 women, saying, I can't believe this, but I'm pregnant. And then another week later, I got essentially same email from another woman. And then 2 weeks after that, I got another one. So there were 3 pregnancies from women who weren't trying to get pregnant. They had been trying very hard to get pregnant. And then once they signed up for my experimental program, they kind of went, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do something different. And they sort of waited for instructions from me. But apparently they weren't trying to not get pregnant, because 3 out of 10 got pregnant. And this is a population where you would have expected like less than 5% chance per month. So this was what kind of blew my mind. I didn't really know what to do with that information. What we were trying to do was work on egg quality. We didn't get to that part with several of them. So moving forward from there, I took time off from helping others because I had a 6-month-old baby, and I realized I just couldn't juggle all this. So it was another 6 months or so before I started putting out more guidance online for other people to follow. I created my first fertility affirmation set. It was the Improving Egg Quality Affirmations, and that was designed to really plant a lot of messages for self-care that could contribute to this kind of egg nurturing that I was trying to teach. So all along the way, I'm trying to figure out, how do I impart this mindset of nourishing ourselves for several months before conception? How do I impart this upon people? How do I teach people how to do it? So I created some of those meditations that I put on my YouTube channel. I just had 2 recordings for many, many months. I think I did a breathing for fertility and the egg quality affirmations. So those were the 2 that were there for about 8 months, all by themselves, and people started finding them. And then I created an online course that I called the 90-Day Egg Nurturing Program. And it was 10 modules of research and guidance on, what does the research tell us about exercise, about nutrition, about supplements, about stress, and all these different elements, and a system for how you could think about it and integrate these practices into your daily life. So I started promoting that and got about a dozen women to sign on for that and start using the program. And over the course of the next 8 months or so, more and more women came on board and were very courageous in trying out this program that I had set out. And they were dutifully going through the materials and looking at how they could apply that to their lives. And I started doing live group sessions where I could connect with people and see where they were with things. And the thing that really stood out to me that I didn't know what to do about was I was getting the concepts across about this egg nurturing period and how to nourish yourself. And I really felt the women were doing their best to implement, but I also felt just a really high level of stress coming from so many of them. And I wanted to find a way to help them dial that down. And if you've experienced stress around trying to conceive, you probably know that somebody telling you, just relax, it really is not helpful at all. And as a psychotherapist who specializes in helping teach people to relax through one-on-one therapy, I also knew that you can't just tell people, just relax, here's a CD, here's a book, here's some techniques, go relax. It's really not that simple of a process. And I had, so I was puzzling over, how do I teach this online when it's not even that easy to teach in person. But I remembered back to right before my first pregnancy, I actually owned a yoga studio for a couple years. It was an accidental entrepreneurial side trip that I took when I was teaching my breathing and relaxation methods to a group of my clients. And I had just asked to rent space at a yoga studio across the street from my office. And then a couple months into it, the studio owner said, I'm abandoning the studio. I'm going to close it. I said, well, that's okay. I'll take over. So I became the owner of a yoga studio at that time. And it was kind of a neat, aside from the stresses of running a business right in 2008, right before the economy crashed, it was a great opportunity to kind of have a sandbox to play in and experiment with teaching classes and finding ways to meet people where they were and guide them in this kind of setting. And over that time period, I developed a class that I called Deep Relaxation, where we did yoga-like practices and mindfulness practices. So it was a kind of a combination of very gentle yoga and mindfulness meditation and restorative yoga, which is another element that I had gotten training in, that's about deeply calming the nervous system through supportive postures that you relax in. So I had all these different tools that I was playing with to combine in this yoga class in my little yoga studio. And that class was just really a gift for me as the teacher. I would feel so relaxed by the end of it. And then my students would be like practically drooling on themselves by the end during the final relaxation. And I thought, gosh, I wish I could bring all these women who are struggling with their fertility into my little yoga studio that I had many years ago and do this deep relaxation class with them. And I was also learning about just how to meet people online, how to reach them. And I was looking at one of these apps. I think it was Insight Timer or the Calm app. I think it's Insight Timer, and they had meditation challenges that instructors would set up. And the rule, if you wanted to create a challenge for this platform, was it could be no more than 15 or 20 minutes per day. And they were usually 7-day challenges, or sometimes they were 21 days. And so I think that planted a seed in my mind that, okay, this is what people in this day and age, with the technologies that we have, with the busy lives that we have, this is what seems to be working. It's like 15 minutes a day, every day. So I think all those seeds had gotten planted, and I was trying to figure out how to promote these programs that I was developing, the 90-day egg nurturing program, and I was developing a new, I call it TTC Essentials program, to just teach people the basics without giving them the whole ball of wax with the 10-module egg nurturing program. And I decided to create a 7-day challenge where we would do 15 to 20 minutes a day of practices. And that was the program that I pilot tested in September of this year, just a couple months ago. I put it together in a course format where a new practice would be released each day. Everybody would go through it on their own time, report back in. And the it was really astounding, because I really didn't know. It was just an experiment to see if this format would have the effect that I was hoping for, like the end of the class in the yoga studio where everybody's bleary-eyed and they're practically drooling on themselves. I was like, I don't know if I can do this online, but let's just see what'll happen. And within the first day of practices, I saw these comments, and I was just, I was blown away. And the second day is happening again, the third day and the fourth day. And I had different practices being released each day, something completely new each time. And it was really remarkable, just the amount of shift that women were experiencing across that 1 week for just 15 or 20 minutes a day. So this was a long process from the time that I went through my egg nurturing experience to being able to reach others and convey to them what it was I really wanted them to feel. And not just convey it intellectually, but convey it so that they could feel it in their bodies, they could implement it and actually feel nourished, feel calm, feel relaxed, despite this situation that can at times feel like a pressure cooker when you're trying so hard, you don't know how much time you have, you really want this badly, and you just don't have complete control over it. That can create a lot of stress. And I finally found a format that seemed to truly help women make this dynamic shift across a really short period of time, 7 days. So I knew, though, that when you go on a retreat and you have this life-changing feeling, where like, wow, I see things in a way that I want to take home with me and my life is going to be great now. If you've ever been on a retreat like that, you may have experienced that. You come home with all this beautiful energy, and then within a week, you're kind of back to your old ways. So I kind of anticipated that it could be like that for this 7-day online retreat for fertility that I was running. So I wanted to create a follow-on program so that women could continue this. And that's what I've been doing these last few months with a few dozen women who have come on board. I've been evolving this this ongoing program to support this kind of mind-body alignment throughout the fertility journey. And you may have seen in other posts and emails that quite a few women from the September challenge have gotten pregnant. And we've also had a couple of pregnancies since the October challenge. So I've run this twice now. And these are situations where it's not somebody that just decided to start getting pregnant 3 months ago. And, oh, now they're pregnant now. Maybe they were just really fertile. These are women who were working at this for 3 years, 5 years, even 9 years. So these were not simple cases of, oh, you need to know when you're ovulating so you do it at the right time. No, these are people who already knew that stuff and were doing it. And a lot of them were already doing herbs and acupuncture and everything under the sun. But it seems like something about getting into this shift of energy into this more easeful place, something happened that now allowed that to kind of tip the scales and bring their fertility into alignment. So this is a piece, I want to come back to the original topic of this talk today, which is how do you layer together all these different elements? Because I'm not going to sit here and say all that you need in order to get your fertility in alignment and to get pregnant is to learn how to relax, and I'm going to show you how to relax. That may be all you need, but it might not either. We have to be smart and realistic about this. There might be aspects of nutrition, aspects of other medical conditions, maybe a thyroid issue, maybe autoimmune issues. There may be other things going on. There's a whole system of stuff going on in your body. And I don't want to oversimplify it and say, all you need is to get your timing right and relax, and then everything should work out. That's not the way our system works. It can be very complicated, but it can also be simple. And the problem is we don't really know which one it is. For each one of you who is hoping to bring things into alignment, you don't know, is it a tweak over here? Is it a tweak over here? You don't know which one it is. And that's what can lead to that kind of feeling of overwhelm, like, well, maybe I should tweak all these things at once. And that creates stress. So the approach that I suggest, and if we were to just kind of step back and look at a possible order to go through things in, and this won't apply for everybody, but I want to give you kind of a generic, what I would recommend for most women. First level of intervention, I would say, is make sure that you understand your cycle and your ovulation timing. It's shocking, but there are some women who have been at this for quite a long time, and they actually haven't used the tools available to find out for sure when their fertile window is. So that is the first thing. If anybody is serious about this and has been at it a while, I want to be sure that you understand how your cycle works and how your timing works and how to figure that out. So I have my TTC Essentials downloadable guide where I spell out a system for doing that that's very simple and very inexpensive. There are a lot of fancy, expensive fertility trackers out there, and those might be nice if you like that approach, but I want you to know you don't have to. I got pregnant 3 times using a very simple system that would cost you a few dollars a month. So I'll link to that. You can find it on my website, and I'll link to that in the notes for this program. I would like everybody who's been on this path for a while to be sure they've got a system that's very low stress where they can be clear about their timing. Okay, so that's just a practical thing. And then the next stage I would like people to have access to is these tools for calming your nervous system. So wherever you are on your fertility journey, if you're just starting or if you've been at this for 5 years and you feel like you've tried everything under the sun, there's probably even a little more that you could do to support your nervous system and help calm yourself from the inside. So, and everything that you do on this level is going to help the other things that you might add into your program. So I really encourage learning about yourself and how you're wired mentally and emotionally, and what helps you find your place of ease within yourself. And that's going to take experimenting. It's going to be a little bit different for different people. And that's why in my 7-day challenge, I'm offering a whole variety of approaches, because some people are going to resonate with the affirmations, and some people are going to resonate with the gentle movement, and some people will resonate with the restorative yoga where we're resting in stillness. Not everybody is going to speak to the same thing. I was using all of those things when I was in a very stressful place after my first miscarriage, except for the affirmations. I'd never really used affirmations myself because I don't know, I thought they were kind of corny and maybe that's for other people, but I was using all the other techniques and they weren't doing it enough. They weren't doing enough for me. I still had my mind racing, constantly checking signs, constantly researching. Have you had that experience when you've Google researched a certain topic and every hyperlink has the color of you've checked on it before, and every time you go back to it, you've already checked everything before, but you want to go check it again? I was in that kind of place, even though I had all these other tools to access. And that was when I was like, well, let me try affirmations, because that's something I recommend to other people, but I haven't done for myself. That was when I started writing the weekly affirmations to correspond to where I was in my cycle and how I wanted to think about things in a more positive way. I recorded them on my phone. I put on earbuds. I listened to it, and it was a miracle cure for me to get my mind out of that obsessive kind of place. So you don't know which methods are going to work for you. And I encourage everybody to be on this sort of journey to understand yourself and how to calm your system. So try a smorgasbord of ways for self-calming and keep experimenting to find something that resonates for your system, because it's just so unpleasant to be so stressed out during this process. It affects your relationships, affects your fertility, obviously, and it's just not fun. So there's another way to be with this, and that's what I'm really focusing right now in this phase, is helping find all the different ways that I can deliver those resources to people so that you can find your inner calm. Okay, so part one was know your fertile window and be able to track it in a low stress way. Part two is learn how to calm your system. And then part three would be a lot of what is in my 90-day egg nurturing program, which is all the other stuff of lifestyle change and potentially consulting with different kinds of providers to see if there's something medically that needs to be addressed, to see if there's something that traditional Chinese medicine or functional medicine could address. There's a whole span of different types of approaches to optimal well-being in yourself. And I think that kind of exploration can be really helpful. And you never know, it may be that acupuncturist found the right combination of herbs to help you. Maybe you go to reproductive endocrinologist and get scanned and find out that you have a blocked tube and your eggs aren't actually getting to where they need to go. So there's that piece that's part of my 90-day egg nurturing program. I really encourage people to be inquisitive and knowledgeable, not afraid to seek information, because you want to turn over all those rocks and see what's under them. And then there's all the lifestyle change stuff. So I recommend everybody get as much sleep as you can. I know it's hard, but it's worth it. Everything in our system responds better when we're well rested. Same thing for eating well. It's not a surprise that if you eat in a healthful, nourishing way, you're going to feel better and you're going to do better. I don't really get a lot into specific diets, although I do delve into what the research has said about nutrition and fertility. And then, exercise, moving our bodies. Just about every condition responds better if our body is not stagnant, if it's moving. And we don't want to overdo exercise, but still be active. So there are all these different lifestyle change elements that you can weave in. But I like to prioritize bringing the stress down first, because once we start to try to tap all these other elements, this is when we can get overwhelmed. And if you have your basic foundation of daily practices to come back to help keep you anchored, then you're going to be much more much better resourced and well prepared when you start venturing into all the things and turning over all the rocks and meeting with different practitioners and finding out what they have to say. If we can start from a foundation of being able to, I work from my mindfulness foundation. So it's not really about positive thinking. It's really about being present with what is and being able to handle that gracefully. Okay, I don't believe that it's realistic to be positive all the time. If something pleasant is happening, yes, you'll have a positive feeling about it. If something painful, negative is happening, you're going to have a negative reaction to that. And I think that's appropriate. So I really like to move away from, it's all about trying to make yourself feel good all the time. And actually, I opened the next 7-day challenge is already open for enrollment, and there's a space where people can come in and introduce themselves and talk about what they've been through. I've been reading the comments, and I see a lot of comments about, I feel guilty because I don't feel positive enough. I feel like a fraud telling myself affirmations when underneath I feel really sad. Okay, can anybody relate to this? This is what I feel creates a lot of tension in the system, and you don't need to feel happy and upbeat all the time. In fact, I believe it's more healthy if you acknowledge how sad this trip may have been for you, how painful some of your losses may have been. Have those feelings, breathe through them, acknowledge them, give them genuine attention. And this is what helps bring the body into alignment, allows energy to move, and then allows us to be able to connect with joy when something positive is going on in our lives. So this is the kind of foundation that I would love for people to have, being able to roll with the curveballs of life, being able to breathe through all these challenges. And then when we're trying to add in these different elements of our program, okay, I'm going to experiment with this kind of diet. I'm going to experiment with acupuncture and herbs. I'm going to go consult with a fertility specialist. When you start venturing into those areas that could be important for your program, you've got a foundation to be able to integrate all of this and process it in a way that's manageable and not going to overwhelm your system. Okay, I think so many of the fertility treatments that are available right now are extremely overwhelming. You walk into the office and get all this information about what your statistics are, what your chances are, what your procedures are. And I just think everything is designed to kind of blow the lid off of your nervous system. And I would love for people to have this basic foundation of coping strategies to help navigate all that. So that's kind of an overview of the stages that I see that I would love people to go through. Is first making sure you've got the nuts and bolts down, understanding your fertility timing, then establishing a foundation for the emotional coping, and then delving into all these different layers that could be impacting your fertility. So I'm going to take a breath. That was a lot of mental sharing right there. And I'm going to read your comments. Okay. I see the comment feed going on here, and I really don't know how to multitask talking and reading at the same time. So let me see what is up here. Okay. Back to how is the weather? We have somebody from Turkey, and it's cold. And my heart after losing my 4 days old baby. Oh my goodness. Mm. I'm so sorry. Maybe if we could just have a moment as a group here together. Where are we here? We have 21 women here together. And I don't know if this individual is still here, MHTP. Are you still here with us? Can you share a comment? I think you're still here with us. Okay, well, whether she is or not, let's just have a moment to take a nice slow breath together of acknowledgement and sending an energy of condolence and warm support toward MHTP and her loss. Sending energy from your heart to hers, to help lift her up and give her warmth and support during this very difficult time. Thank you. So you can't just skip over something like that. There's a lot of emotional energy and connecting with someone else's emotional energy. And I think it's worthwhile to take a moment to just slow down and pause, acknowledge the real life situations that we're going through here together. Okay, continuing now. Thank you to all those who chimed in support in the chat here for her. Yeah. Militia says, you give me so much hope. I'm right where you were at the same age. Yeah. And at the age of 44, 45, there are a lot of negative messages out there. And I don't think it tells the whole, I don't think it's a fair telling of the whole story, the negative messages that you'll hear. There are possibilities at this age. Okay. MHTP says, I'm looking forward to having a healthy baby and praying for everyone, wishing so much. You're very resilient. Yes, Roxana, haha, everyone to tell us that just relax and it will happen. And Katerina, and stop trying and it will happen. Yeah, these are not helpful messages. It may be true on some level for some people. You don't know if you're the one that could stop trying and it'll happen yet, but it's not a helpful message. Okay, today, yes. Okay. Okay, so Kenshin says, I feel so much guilt. I'm supposed to reduce caffeine, wine, and dairy. I just can't do it despite wanting to get pregnant so much. Okay. So what I would say to that is ditch the guilt, acknowledge your humanness. And if you're already signed up for, I recognize your name, you're signed up for the 7-day challenge. Trust this process. And I want to just kind of give you a vision that as you become more connected with your body, with your emotions, with what's going on inside of you, as you become more connected, I believe that your body is wise and it will help guide you toward the things that are more healthy for you. So if you're using caffeine because you're tired, if you start listening to your body, you might decide to treat it to more rest, and then you won't need the caffeine as much. But we want to not criticize ourselves for our vices, but understand that all of our vices are there for a reason. It's some means to try to help us survive whatever our situation is. And the trick isn't to shame ourselves and like white knuckle it to stop doing these things, but it's to say, what's this about? What's this doing for me? And how can I best nurture myself? And keep coming back to that question. How can I best nurture myself? And I believe that oftentimes the vices will start to fall away when we're coming to a core purpose of listening inward, trusting our bodies, and responding in a nurturing way. I'm looking forward to seeing how you feel about these things at the end of next week's challenge. Okay. So much focus on FSH levels, Katerina says. Yeah, there's a lot of focus on these, the hormonal data, FSH, AMH, and I can tell you anecdotally, I see lots of cases of women with high FSH and low AMH getting pregnant naturally. I don't know exactly what the correlations are between these numbers and pregnancy outcomes, but they're talked about oftentimes in the medical community as if it's a deal breaker. And I'm here to say that it's not a deal breaker, because when I had mine tested a year before my successful pregnancy, one of those tests, I had an FSH of 33 and an AMH of 0.19. I went back the next month to test again because I thought maybe that was a mistake. My FSH came back much lower, like 12 or something like that. My AMH also came back lower. It was 0.07. lower than 0.19. I had my AMH tested again the month that I got pregnant. It was 0.99. That was the month of my successful pregnancy. So that's anecdotal. That's just me. But I'm just saying, there's one example of where AMH and FSH did not predict the outcome. I've also heard this term, you're only as good as your highest FSH. So my high FSH was 33. Fertility clinics would have laughed at me if I would have asked them about my chances to get pregnant. That is a very high number. So I don't know. I question some of the wisdom about interpreting these numbers. Okay, continuing down the question, comments here. Okay. Well, this is a very active chat thread here. I'm going to have to go back and read some of these when I'm not going to hold all of you up. Okay, MHTP, I'm glad that you're still here to connect with us. Thank you so much for sharing such a vulnerable time for you. Melanie, I'm still young, less than 30, been trying over 5 years. Yeah. Okay. So this has been a long road for you, and it sounds like you've gotten a lot of assistance and still not getting questions answered. You know, in a case like this, I think it never hurts to keep asking questions and keep getting consultations from different types of providers. Maybe you've been to several different fertility doctors or several different acupuncturists, but each one is going to have a different tool set, and they might have different things that they'll look at. Each type of provider has a different whole model of the human being and different way that they're looking at it. And I would also really encourage you to double down on this stress management part, because it wouldn't be the first time that I've seen somebody who's been through all the tests, all the treatments, and then when they do this program where they bring their stress down, something magically happens. I can't explain it exactly, but sometimes that's the missing piece. So I believe that you are registered for the challenge. If you're registered for the challenge for next week, go ahead and say I'm in, so you can see who here in this live stream is going to be together with us next week. So say I'm in if you're going to be doing the challenge next week. Okay. So Melanie, I'm going to hold a lot of hope for you. I think you're going to be in the challenge, and we'll keep on sending positive energy your way. Katerina, my AMH 8.5, FSH 16.3. Doctors make me feel like a failure because I'm 46. Yeah, that's a lot of negativity, and a lot of times they really do just see the number of your age walking through the door, and you want to be able to work with people who are going to look at you as a unique individual, not just as a number. Yeah, okay, Melanie, the doctor says it's just unexplained infertility. And to me, that means they don't know what it is, right? And that's frustrating. There's nothing wrong. Why am I? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to see where this next week takes you. Don't assume that you won't be surprised. Okay, Melisha, also unexplained. Yeah. And it goes to show that we don't know everything about the reproductive system. We don't have all the tools and all the answers. So a lot of this is, like I say, it's kind of the wild, wild west where we're experimenting. We don't want to just sit there going, well, I don't know, so I can't do anything. You're motivated. You're going to try things. So I just say, be smart about what you're trying to learn about, what the rationale is, and apply different approaches in a sensible way as you go through this. Okay, a question here. What do you think about the relationship between fasting, cleansing the liver, body systems, and getting pregnant? So I would apply the same principles I just talked about. Look into any particular approach that you're considering and find out what's the logic behind it, what's the research behind it, and how likely do you think that is going to address something going on for you? Is that likely to bring balance into your system from what you know about your system? And what are the potential downsides? Is it potentially harmful? Okay, so we're in the realm of things that might not have a lot of data. So I am not an expert in all the things that have been proposed to support fertility, but what I can do is offer a system, a way of thinking about it, because each of you can kind of go about doing your own exploration to kind of find out what you might consider trying. And if you've read my blogs and stuff, you know that I'm kind of, in generally, I'm a little bit of a supporter of a more minimalist approach. One, because I like to think that the body is designed to take care of itself without a lot of fancy dancing around. So that's my general bias. It's like if it's more naturally what the body would be doing in the best of circumstances, I'm more inclined in that direction rather than adding in a whole bunch of fancy sauce to the recipe, using cooking analogies here. So I tend to lean in that direction intuitively. That's not to say that some kind of fasting liver cleanse might be just what somebody needed, but I encourage people to not grasp on to some folk remedy that you heard about on the internet just because you feel desperate. If you feel like you're coming from a place of constriction and desperation, I suggest that you take a step back, do some calming practices, come to a place where you're feeling calm and ease, and then reconsider, does this have some legitimate rationale for being helpful to me? Otherwise, you can run into the situation where you start just grabbing everything, throwing everything into the soup, and then you got this pot of muck, and you don't even know if it tastes bad. You don't know what made it bad. If it tastes good, you don't really know what tastes good. And you have 17 things in there, and you're afraid to make a change because you don't know what the heck you're doing. So I recommend trying to be level-headed about it, be systematic if you're going to experiment, and don't just jump at something because you feel like you've got to do something. I think that's less likely to yield you the outcome that you're looking for. Okay. I think it's been a very full session for us today. I've got a number of people saying they're in for the challenge. Zoe, Bev, Melanie, Kenchan. If you're not in yet and you want to consider it, click on the link that's in the description here. You can read all about the program. You have until Sunday night to sign up. We won't be having late signups. It's kind of like a yoga class where you close the door before the class starts because you don't want people to walk in the middle. We're going to have a closed group. We're going to start on Monday. Wherever you are, wherever time zone you're in, you'll be able to access it on your Monday and do the practices for that day. It's just 15 minutes. Sometimes I throw in some extras if you have more time and want to do more, but you only need 15, maybe 20 minutes so that you can read the instructions and then do the practice. And I'm really excited to be going through a third round now. Each time I can refine it a little bit more. It's generally the same, but it gets more refined. And I feel like the right people, I don't want to say right, that sounds stupid. The people who are aligned with this and ready to move forward with this kind of experience are finding the program now. And that makes it so rich as a group to go through this together. So whether you join up with us next week or not, I'll be offering this probably repeatedly every 2 months or so. So you can catch it in the next round if this month just doesn't work for you. And whether you join in this program or not, I hope that you will keep me updated, comments on YouTube, shoot me an email, let me know how things are going for you. And let's just take one more breath together. And actually, I have one of my special sound instruments here. This is a Tibetan singing bowl. I'm going to ring this chime 3 times, and I'd like to I invite you to connect with your breath and take in the resonance of this chime that is sending vibrations through the air to my microphone, to your speakers all around the world, and we're experiencing these vibrations together. I'll ring this 3 times and draw in the positive resonance of this sound and breathe out to all of our sisters here today who are connecting around the same wish in our hearts to bring new life into the world. Thank you for being with me today. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.